Ladies and gentlemen, one of the breakout films for me at this year's Sundance Film Festival was a brilliant film called Speak No Evil. I feel so blessed and so fortunate to be joined by three of the principals involved with that film. We have the director, Christian Tafdrup. We have two of the actors, Morten Burian and Sidsel Siem Koch. Thank you all for taking the time to join me today to talk about this wonderful film.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now, first, before we get into the movie, the same way that your movie has a nice build, I want to build this interview. I'd like you each to tell me, how did you guys all get your start, whether it be in directing or in acting? And I guess Christian, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Well, I actually do both acting and directing, so I'll choose directing. But I must say I worked at a film company called Centropa, which is a huge film company in Denmark, started by Lars von Trier and Peter Olbæk. And I was a runner at that film company from I was, 13, 14 years old, doing all the shitty jobs like making coffee, copying script and all that. And at that time, I played a lot of theater. I wanted to be an actor. I wrote a lot, but it was really much being at this company, looking at the older directors that I admired so much that I wanted to become a little bit like them. And by reading all their scripts, I was just inspired of trying it myself. So I just remember I had a huge passion for being a filmmaker. I went to theater school after high school because I wanted to be an actor, but I couldn't really concentrate on acting school because I did short films all the time. So I've been in a dilemma ever since. And in the last 10 years, I've been working more and more as a director. I still do acting things, but now that I did 3 features, I think I finally found a job where I feel extremely comfortable and think it's so exciting to do this. So yeah, it's been there all my life, but yeah, I guess now I admit that this is what I am, a filmmaker.
Excellent. Sidsel, we'll go to you.
Was it about this movie or just life in general?
Just in general, in terms of becoming an actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually come from a family of actors. So I'm actually the 3rd generation. So, but that doesn't help anything. But I've always wanted to become an actor as well, and I was lucky enough to get in the Danish, what's it called, the Danish acting school, and I did that. I was finished with that almost 9 years ago now, and then I've been started doing a lot of theater, different theater, from classics to child theater. And then all of a sudden it actually stopped a little bit, and then it began to only be TV and films.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was in the acting school as well as when I was 19 years old, and I've been playing theater and theater and theater and theater and theater for 20 years, and no film, almost no film, really few roles. And then this came along, this really, really fantastic role and movie, and that's my first lead in a role in a film. So it's I feel so privileged that I'm in this.
That's amazing, and it's an interesting point because there are a lot of actors who either get their start in theater or after they've been doing film for a while want to go back to theater. I know Denzel Washington, for example, has stated that he always likes going back every few years and doing a play on Broadway. So I think it's a very interesting relationship between theater acting and cinematic acting. So I'm glad that you had that base. Now, so you kind of touched on this, but I'll expand on it. How did you guys all come together for this project? Did you know each other before coming to work on Speak No Evil?
Well, you can start, Sidsel.
Can I start?
I want to hear your version of this.
I knew Christian and Morten. I don't think they knew me, but I knew them because Christian had made some awesome films, and Morten was for me really like a very, very good stage actor. So I was called to casting with both of them, and I was like, oh, thank you so much that I could at least work with them in one casting. So and then we had like, I don't know, 4 castings or something before we landed the parts. That's my version. I thought the guys were very cool.
Okay.
So you can say something now,
you,
Christian.
Morten?
No, Christian, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I know Morten a little bit from my private life. We have common friends. I met him a couple of times on dinners and parties, but I never really worked with him. I was dating his sister once, but that's many years ago. So I also know your parents, Morten. But I've never really worked with him, and Sidsel I didn't know at all. And then we have a casting agent that recommended me to see them together. And Morten and Sidsel was actually the first couple who attended the casting. And immediately I had this feeling, these are the guys. But I said, it can't be, because I have to see a lot of couples. But I just have this gut feeling that they were perfect for the parts. And I could see that they were not that experienced in front of a camera, but I could see that they were the only one that I casted that kind of came very close to what I imagined. So I just continued casting a lot of other actors, also big names in Danish cinema, and none of them came so close to Morten and Sidsel. So I thought, what shall I do? And then I gave them the parts, and we started to do a little workshop, some improvisations. I showed them the material from the castings and was quite rough in what I thought was working and what was not working. And as soon as we came to shoot the film, they was just excellent. I mean, I was very surprised that they were so on top of it and just perfect for the parts. I had absolutely no trouble with them doing the shootings.
It's amazing. Now, one of the things that I've heard you say before, Christian, that you weren't overly familiar with the horror genre, in terms of like, you didn't spend a lot of a huge amount of background in horror. So what is it that attracted you to the genre?
Well, I looked at my previous 2 features, and there are definitely horror elements in them. I mean, my earlier film is about a really bad relationship, and you kind of feel these uncomfortable situations. So I think I've always, maybe without knowing it, been attracted to suspense, building up things, making awkward situations, and where you didn't really know who were, the good guys and the bad guys. And then when I came up with this idea, it doesn't work like that for me, that I say, now I'm going to make a horror film. It's more, you have an idea, you try to develop it a little bit, and then suddenly you see, maybe this could work as a horror film. And then I must admit that I was out on deep water, because I'm not familiar with horrors. I have a lot of favorite horror films, but they're, back from the 70s. And I hate, these guilty pleasure B horror films where it's all for the jump scare and doesn't, really say anything to me. But then I discovered that in recent times, a lot of horrors came out, especially in America, like Get Out or Hereditary or Midsummer, like films that kind of are not horror in the classical term. They are horrors, but they're also social satire. You can laugh, you can get scared, and they have something to say about society. So I was kind of, relaxed when I saw that horror films can also mix genres. So me and my brother, we just tried to, go out there and looked at some horror films, but not many. And then we took a convention we thought could work and, didn't go ways we didn't think worked, and then mixed it with something I'm more familiar with, which is relationships, satire, absurdism, and all that. So I guess I loved writing upon genre convention, because it gives you a path, it gives you a direction, and that felt extremely liberating for me as a writer.
Now, it's an interesting point, right? Because of the film genres that I review, horror is always a challenging one, because you've always got that person who's just arms folded. That didn't scare me. And I think we've come a long way from whether or not it scared you. For me, horror films that resonate with me are the ones that you can look at and say, okay, that could happen. Like, it's somewhat relatable. Like, it was years after I saw the movie Hostel that I wanted to set foot in Europe. Okay, so I can completely appreciate that mentality. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to read you some of the comments that I've taken off of the wonderful universe that is Twitter, just to give you an idea of some of the things that people are saying about this great film. So the first quote: "It seems this year's Sundance is about making me stay at home and never meeting people again in person." This is a quote after seeing your film. "Speak No Evil is why I'll never be polite again. The most disturbing film I've seen in years." And this last one: "The director needs a therapist, and that therapist will need a therapist." So I look at your film, and I want to ask you about where the inspiration for it came from, but I just loved it because phenomenal score, which I think is so important to a film, the great cinematography, and most of all, your patient storytelling. Like, there's nothing that is rushed. There's nothing that is like, that's being forced. Everything is so patiently developed in this film. Like, I think that you guys have put together a masterclass in filmmaking with this project. So, getting a little ahead, I want to take a step back and say, where did your inspiration for this film come from? Because I know what you said, as you mentioned, you wrote it with your brother, and you seem like a perfectly fine individual. It doesn't seem like you missed any hugs when you're growing up as a kid. So where did the inspiration for this project come from?
I think mainly it came from an experience I had 4 years ago on a holiday,
okay,
which are very similar to the movie. I was in Italy with my girlfriend and our daughter, and we met a Dutch couple who also had daughters. And it was a place like that in the film where you socialize with strangers. And I kind of like that. I like to talk to people, but it's also, you're always on neutral ground and you want to be best versions of yourselves. But what happened there was we kind of exchanged emails. And when we got back to Copenhagen, we had an email from them saying, "You want to see us? You want to visit us in Rotterdam?" And we thought about it, but we said no. And then I just started to imagine what would have happened if we have actually went there. And then I realized that I had similar situations as a child with my parents meeting people abroad that we visited, and these stays were never really comfortable. So partly it was out of, experience, and then of course partly out of my own freaky imagination. And I just thought that this idea was such a fun, simple idea for a movie. But what I had to work with was that you could easily see it as a comedy, or something that is not very frightening or very easy or comfortable. And the tricky thing was, well, how do we make it into a movie that is about something? And then I just realized how many bad things I have experienced because I'm a very polite man, because I think I am very friendly, and I always expect the good from everyone else. So, but I was also figuring out I had so many troubles in life because I was afraid to say no, and how many times I wanted to please others instead of listening to myself, just like I sacrificed how I felt. And so easily and slowly, this story about social manners and the way society maybe dictate us how to behave, instead of listening to your human nature in a way to not to be shameful of that in a way. All these themes came out of this very simple idea about seeing strangers.
No, it's an interesting point too, because here in Canada, we're supposed to be the friendliest people. I don't know. But what I will tell you is that we're very funny in that if somebody bumps into us, we usually say we're sorry. So yeah. I'm very excited to see how, like how Canadian audiences react to this. A question for Sidsel and Morten. Your characters are fantastic in this film, and you guys obviously go through an array of different emotions. I'm just wondering where the inspiration came from for each of you in terms of playing your characters, because I'd say that obviously the audience, we're with you every step of the way through this film, and we're seeing all sorts of different emotion from the beginning of the film through the end. So where did the inspiration come from? Because there was such strong performances from both of you.
Well, I know Bjørn very well from myself. As Christian just was telling, I also know this way of being polite and actually having troubles with saying no when somebody crossing my borders. I remember starting at the theater school and really struggling with this. And that's kind of a evil twin I have to deal with in my life. So I could relate a lot to this subject. And then I also see it very much in our society. I know couples that are so polite towards each other, like Björn and Louise are. They really have, instead of, also when they're only the two of them, they also not showing themselves or expressing what's really in their hearts. And those relationships, I don't live in a relationship like that, but I can relate to it. I see it a lot of times where I look. So it was really relatable. And then if I love just what happens if you're really forced, if you really meet somebody who really challenges this politeness. Are you at all able to stand up for yourself and the ones you love? I mean, that's the question I can ask myself. What if somebody enters my apartment? Am I able to stand up for myself and my family? That I don't know. And it was so fantastic to go into this character and this story where you're not showing the hero or the one who is, when he faces cruelty, really makes the right choices, but just keep on taking the wrong choices. I think that's really also what happens in life. So, Sidsel, you want to go on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but as Morten and Christian, I totally recognize all the politeness in Louise and Björn and myself as well. And I actually think it is something you can work on your entire life, because you can really hurt yourself by being too polite. I also recognize Louise in so many other women that I know or went to school with or have met. So that I recognize them. So then also that inner voice that is not just trying to be polite, but also trying to trying to convince yourself that it's me who's the problem and not the others. Always like, oh, that must be me who is thinking too much of them or too little of me, or maybe I was too loud, or maybe I was misunderstanding what they said. So it's always about trying to not blaming the others, but blaming oneself. So that you're always not, I know that when you're not convinced that it's me, it's not them who's the problem, and that could actually be a great problem. I really know that, and that was very fun to do with Louise.
No, fair. Now, I want to mention that in North America, that distribution rights for this has been picked up, I believe, by the Shudder Network.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Which is wonderful, because we're right now here in Ottawa, we're in a lockdown. We're in a lockdown as much as that movie theaters are closed. So during this pandemic, a lot of people have been going to streaming service. Shudder is a great streaming service, so people will be able to see this brilliant film. I believe, obviously, sometime later this year. I don't think a release date has been set as yet.
No.
So that's great, and I'll definitely keep people up to date on that. I want to drift into rapid fire questions, because I want to make I'm going to be conscious of your time. Now, rapid fire, usually I'm doing one-on-one interviews. 3-on-1, this is exciting, so we're going to have to go really fast here. No, not really, but we're going to go fast. And these are fun questions. These are not meant to be taxing in any way. Just think of the first thing that comes to your mind and we will go. The first question is going to go, we're going to start off with you, Sidsel, then we're going to go to Christian and then to Morten, because that's how you guys are laid out on my screen. The first question is always, when I do rapid fire, is what is your favorite movie of all time? And with that, I've had to modify that over the last few interviews because there's so many great movies. Even if you want to give me a top 3, and there's no wrong answer. So Sidsel, we'll start with you. Favorite movie of all time, go.
Perfect. It has always been Baz Luhrmann's Strictly Ballroom.
Love that. Christian.
I think you can translate it into The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie by Louis Buñuel.
I like this. Morten.
Sure. Force majeure.
Can you say that one more time?
Force majeure.
Thank you.
Rumøsland.
Okay. Now, because of the type of movie we're talking about, I feel like I need to ask you about your favorite horror film. We're going to go in reverse order. Morten, we're starting with you.
Okay, that's The Shining.
Okay.
For me, it's a Don't Look Now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sidsel?
I love zombie movies. So 28 Days Later.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Christian, this question is specific for you. Given the fact that you have just now you're about to dominate the horror genre, naturally, does that mean that your next movie is going to be a comedy?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Dial up Kevin Hart or somebody and then get a comedy and then everybody will be calm around you again. Okay. Sidsel, we're starting with you on this one, but we're going to go again through everybody. You, of course, play a mother in this movie. One of the things with mothers is they're always, at least part of, I think, the contract is embarrassing their kids. Tell us about an embarrassing moment in your life. And gentlemen, start thinking of one as well.
Oh my God. Well, I always crack a lot of bad jokes, and on a daily basis, I tell a very bad one. So on daily basis, always like, that was not funny, Sidsel, and then okay, every day.
I'm with you on that because I get accused of making dad jokes. I'm not a dad, but apparently they're just really bad jokes. So I'm with you. I feel you on that one.
They call me Uncle Sidsel. Yeah.
Christian, anything embarrassing you want to share?
You said the first thing that pops in your mind. So the most recent was I had to do some Zoom calls with some very important producer from Hollywood, and I was kind of late. I misunderstood the timing. So when I took the call, I was changing my baby's diapers, and my baby had really hot diarrhea. So I was having a baby here crying, and with the other hand I had the computer like this one talking to some top-notch Hollywood producer, and it was, in the beginning it felt really embarrassing, but as the interview go on, I think they thought it was actually really Danish and very down to earth.
Right. There you go.
I think I will just mention I have this bought this purple hoodie.
Okay.
Or hat, which it says Seattle here in the front, and then it's with glimmer, with this silver glitter in it. And I have two kids, and they don't want to walk the streets with me when I have this this hoodie on. So they say I have an age crisis. Having an age crisis, so that's pretty embarrassing, I guess. So
you have, Morten.
I have.
Yeah, we all have those hats that we probably shouldn't wear. Morten, starting with you on this one. In this movie, your character unleashes a lot of stress at one point in the movie by screaming. So during these pandemic times, what has been one way? And again, we're going to go around everybody. What has been one way that you've found a way to unleash stress during the pandemic?
Wow, that's a good question. I've been running a lot, really jogging like hell, because I was so frustrated. We were in a lockdown. This film, we're actually we had to pause it because of a lockdown, and this was my first lead. So I was so frustrated when I came home. My wife just told me to go out and run. Otherwise, she couldn't stand me. So running.
Okay, excellent. Christian?
Well, it's a pretty similar. I've been very stressed out, and I've been terrified and extremely furious in the last 2 years. But I also started working out with a personal trainer last year, and for a while it went very well until he got COVID, and then we stopped, and the centers closed down again for a while. But I had like 4 months with running and working out in a center 3 days a week. And it really, really helped me to get my thoughts away from the movie and COVID and all the other troubles this year or last year has been having.
Okay. Sidsel?
Yeah. I've been cooking. That's my way of handling stress. So cooking nice dishes. I love that. Really.
I feel like we have
Great.
so much
It
in
really
common
is.
because I've been doing a lot of eating during the pandemic, but I'm trying to balance it out with exercising as well.
That's right. Eating, I did that too. Working out and then eat.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
you got to balance it out, right? The last question of rapid fire, which I always like to end with, is what advice would you give to emerging filmmakers / actors? And Morten, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, well, you really have to tell stories that mean something to you. I mean, really, there has to be something at stake. Also for the actors when playing, I really want to see that where does it become passionate? Where does it become difficult? Where does it become dangerous? That's my advice. It has to be dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say keep working, and don't get frustrated, because movie making is frustrating. But don't get frustrated. Someday you'll get there. And listen to what other people say, but don't listen too much. Take it with a grain of salt and listen to your inner voice.
Thank you for that. And Sidsel?
Yes, keep working, keep trying to get better, and also don't get lonely. It can be lonely sometimes, and actually acting and theater and movie making it's such a social work, and when you're not working, then it can be very lonely. So try to grab people and learn more from them, and always be with someone who's better than you. Then you will be good.
And a last one for all, I think we can all agree on: have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun. Yeah.
Excellent. I hope you guys have had fun this morning or / this afternoon.
Yeah.
I also want to acknowledge the strong performances of two of your co-stars that weren't able to join today, Fedja Van Hewitt and Karina Smulders, who deliver amazing performances in this film. We touched on films earlier: Midsummer, Get Out. I would also add in there Hounds of Love, a brilliant Australian film, and then Speak No Evil. You guys have just taken over the horror genre by storm, I think. I'm so excited for people to see this movie. I've no doubt you guys are going to go off and do amazing things with all three of your careers, but I always want you to remember this moment here, because this is so special for me to have the opportunity of talking to you guys and to thanking you for such an amazing piece of cinema. The movie, again, Speak No Evil, will be coming out later this year on the Shudder Network. Congratulations to all three of you on just this brilliant, brilliant film. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So nice.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.